I think a lot of people first find out about you in one way. Do you have a guess what it is?
It's by having a poster, having seen a poster somewhere.
Exactly.
This poster, the orange and the black poster, the Beirut sunset, when I see it, I almost want to puke. It's because...
What kind of city is Beirut?
The funny thing is, when I was 15 years old, Beirut was still a closed Beirut. It was still Beirut Sharia for me, so East Beirut, where I grew up and where I was jailed, if you want, because the other side of Beirut was a fantasized kind of thing. Like I would hear of Sharia al-Hamra, I would hear of the Summerland, etc. I have an older brother and sister. They would talk about West Beirut as a paradise, and then I was very disappointed when I discovered Hamra with no lights, with like it was totally fucked up. By the moment I discovered it. Antoine Kerbaj, of course, is my father, is very famous, at least for my generation, and the one older and a little bit younger, with a theater actor who played in TV. But somehow I was disappointed when I used to say my name and people wouldn't ask me, "Are you related to Antoine Kerbaj?" My mother, Laure, Ghorayeb, later on we worked a lot on four hands exhibitions, and once an interviewer said, "So tell me, how did you both meet?" And it was really very funny. But Laure was...
I met him in the hospital. I met him in the hospital.
Yeah. We could have started like this and see where it would go. I knew my position as somebody who is known in the West. I had one kind of mission to bring the reality, the real messages to the people around. So to raise awareness and to bear witness, to counter the narrative that is pushed by all mainstream media all over the world.
Welcome to the Afikra podcast. My name is Mikey Mhenna. Today on the series, we have somebody who I admired for some time. Mazen Kerbaj is an artist. He's a musician and I don't know, overall creative person who is very much connected to the creative scene in Beirut and kind of like the creative heartbeat of the city. So Mazen, welcome to Afikra.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time. We want to do this. I'm happy it's happening finally.
I'm very, very happy. I want to start with just kind of basics. Okay. Let's say somebody stops you in Berlin and says, "What kind of city is Beirut?" How do you answer them in the sort of the most basic way?
Zahide, we're starting. If this is the basics, I'm scared. Basic. I'm scared of where it's going afterwards.
Yeah.
What kind of city is Beirut? Yeah, this is a question. Of course, selling Beirut to a white person is different from selling it to myself. So if I'm talking with a Beiruti, I'll start bitching about Beirut, of course, and you can never stop me. But selling it to somebody from the outside, I always have this idea because I speak a lot with people we invite to our festival, for instance, etc. And many people ask. First, they ask, when is a good time to visit Beirut? I say it's never a good time. Just take your chance and you'll see what you get.
It's never a good time and it's never a bad time.
And it's always a good time. Yeah. Somehow, but you need to take the risk and see what Beirut has for you in this specific time. So it's always a surprise. But then I always say it's a mixture. It's a mixture between a very exotic and a very familiar city for a white person. I'm talking. So it is really, you have the exoticism of Arabic city, a Mediterranean city, but also you have the familiarity of so many codes that you are used to in the West. Beirut is very westernized and still very Arabic. It's really, I think this is what makes it very special. In regards of other Arabic cities, it is this familiarity, like you come here and you find many of the codes you are used to. So yeah, it makes it close somehow. It is also, I always describe it as the Sodoma and Gomorrah of the Arab world, which it is. So also this can give a kind of idea of what Beirut is.
I want to go back to the Beirut you grew up in, and more specifically, the home you grew up in. 15-year-old Mazen, what was your relationship to the sort of the household you grew up in? So the people who are listening, who are unfamiliar, you grew up in a very creative household with two like real artistic creatives as parents. what was it like? What kind of home did you grow up in? And what was it like when you're having breakfast in the morning?
The funny thing is, you just put your finger on something. You said when you were 15 years old. And when I was 15 years old, it was this year where they told us the war is over. So I was born in 75, and I kept hearing from my mom and from everybody around, but specifically from my mom, for 15 years, يلا بعد جمعتين وراح حنحي. Like it'll be okay. 2 weeks, the war will be over. So at 15 specifically is this infamous moment in my life where they told me the war is over, and of course I didn't believe. It took me 3-4 years to really understand. Oh, it's over for real.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Beirut of my 15 years is a very special Beirut. It was still a closed Beirut. It was still Beirut Shari'iyya for me, so East Beirut, where I grew up and where I was almost jailed, if you want, because the other side of Beirut was a fantasized kind of thing. Like I would hear of Shari al-Hamra, I would hear of the Summerland, etc. I have an older brother and sister. They would talk about West Beirut as a paradise, as the lost paradise, you know. And then I was very disappointed when I discovered Hamra with no lights, with like, it was totally fucked up by the moment I discovered it. But yeah, I mean, 15 years old, becoming a teenager was really, like, as you say, I grew up in a family. Antoine Kerbaj, of course, is my father, is very famous, at least for my generation and the one older and a little bit younger. Now he's less known from younger generations because he passed away, but also it's been 10-15 years he's not acting anymore. So he's a theater actor who played in TV, etc. Somehow, like, you could feel it's a very difficult. It is very difficult to become an artist and having somebody with this name. And but somehow I was disappointed when I used to say my name and people wouldn't ask me, "Are you related to Antoine Kerbaj?" So it was, it was a weird thing, and they would ask me, "Are you," like when I say yes, Baye, they would say, "Inta Abdullah Barbar Agha," like, "Are you the son of Barbar Agha, who was very famous on TV?" So in a way, it was a pride and also difficult Oedipus to deal with. And of course, the less known person in the family or artist in the family is my mother, Laure Ghorayeb, and also because she kept her name, how do you say, maiden name? How do you say this in English? So you wouldn't relate us together. And later on, we worked a lot on four hands exhibitions. And once an interviewer said, "So tell me, how did you both meet?" And it was really very funny. Like, we looked at each other. Yeah.
He was born.
Like, I you know, she it was really funny when we had to say this. But Laure was.
I met him in the hospital. That's true. I met him in the hospital.
Yeah. We could have started like this and see where it would go. So Laure was a big influence. She was very strong. I still say she is. Of course, she passed away, but she is still here somehow. She's a very strong woman, very progressive woman. Both of them, I mean, great parents compared to. I mean, great parents, all things measured. They fucked up my life also, like all parents do. But somehow they fucked up my life and gave me the tools to deal with it, you know, which is a plus. And in Lebanon, I mean, having parents like them, besides that they were artists, like the fact that they were artists, they will always tell me, like, when I say I want to do comics, you know, since I always say I never wanted to be president or cosmonaut. I wanted to do comics since very young because I was fascinated by comics. They would tell me, like, be a plumber, be whatever you want, try just to be whatever you love. But they would always tell me, you know, artist life, it's a really very difficult life. It's less glamorous than you would think. Of course, it's very nice, but it's very difficult to make yourself a name and to make a living out of it. So it's not like, yeah, let's all be artists. They were really keen on saying this to us, and both my brother and sister didn't follow this path. I, being very stubborn since very young, like, really said, okay, I said it once, I will continue and I will do it. And of course, it's difficult life, as they said.
Said it once.
Yeah. It's typical me, you know. I just want.
I'm stuck with it.
Yeah. Like, I said it, so I cannot go back. Fortunately, many therapy later. I changed a little bit now. I know how to deal with this.
So funny.
But I'm really very grateful for at least putting this in our minds and making it clear that they won't be more proud or less proud, whatever we do. They are worried for us, of course. They are worried. They want us to make a living. But they don't. They somehow they don't give a fuck. You know what you will do. And I try to keep this with my kids.
I want to stay like in that mode because you're a musician. I want to ask you, what did the 90s sound like in Beirut? What did your teenage years sound like? The beginning of your teenage years, the war, but also afterwards. Like, what did it sound like? What did it smell like in Beirut in those days?
It sounded like trash, and it smelled like barud. What is barud? Like powder, like gunpowder. The music, it was like I really listened to. I remember at 15 years, my biggest dilemma was who between Elton John and Phil Collins was the best singer in the world. So this is where I was standing.
Who won?
I wasn't prepared to become an experimental music at that point, and I wasn't. And these two were way beyond Madonna and Michael Jackson for me. Madonna and Michael Jackson, for some reason, were more problem of my older brother and sister. But who won? I don't know. It was like Elton John had a bigger palette somehow of cheesy crap, and Phil Collins was more, if you want, the intellectual of both. I don't know how to
Genesis
say it.
And all that stuff.
Yeah. You could trace it back to more serious stuff. But then it went into my real discovery of like interest in music and let's say things outside of the box started with really listening to the lyrics, and I discovered things that my mom used to listen to when I was young and I hated. So it's French singer-songwriters. I started again also discovering the Arabic music that my parents used to listen and I used to hate. So Kulsum would be on top. This was the most hateful thing when I was a kid. And then it came like a slap, in the face when we discovered. But all things apart, it's really at 18 that I started discovering music per se. So I started discovering that I could listen to songs where there are no lyrics. So this was the discovery of, let's say, weird rock from the 60s, 70s. So I knew about, for instance, Pink Floyd, but I knew about The Wall and Hey Teacher, Another Brick in the Wall, etc. So I was discovering more weird groups like Sweet Smoke, very weird groups that did only 2 LPs and CDs. Back then we had them on CDs. And I started really discovering music, instrumental, like this long 10, 20 minutes songs or tracks or pieces. And this brought me little by little towards the music I discovered later, which is free jazz and experimental music. I'm not into this music anymore now, but really Elton John and Phil Collins was this moment where it was me deciding what I like and what I don't like. And maybe I chose these two and not Madonna and Michael Jackson because the others were belonging to my brother and sister. And all the music I listened before was the music from my brother and sister. So it was really either trash Lebanese pop on radio or trash French variété music or trash and bad disco. That like this is why I was saying it sounded like trash until it took a while for me to find myself in all this.
Yeah. I'm curious about like how your relationship with the idea of being an artist changed over time, right? So like we were joking, you said it when you were a kid. Okay. But a lot of people come to this point where they get to this point where it's like, I used to want to be an artist. And then I became an accountant, or then I became an architect, or then I became whatever, or I used to love art. At what point did you say, no, this is my life. This is my profession. This is my trade. This is what I'm going to do with my whole life. There's no going back. At what point did you say that?
I think, first of all, like I draw a lot since very young. So I love drawing. Drawing was one of these games where I was alone, like I can do it alone. And I think it's something very common to most kids. So I have three kids and I see kids of everybody. Like drawing is a game. When you're young, you love drawing. And then there
It's
is,
magic. It's
yeah,
more
yeah,
than a
it's
game, it's
totally like you
magic.
can create stories, you can create things. And then you arrive to a point where drawing becomes a game. Like you realize it's a game, like games you used to play. Like there is a moment where you stop playing with Playmobil and with Fisher Price and whatever games you are playing because they are for kids. And then drawings become something like this. You're almost ashamed to draw because it's for kids. And many people from the people who ended up drawing are these people who didn't stop. So for me, I never stopped this thing. I knew that I had uh, more aptitude than others. I hate to say talent because I do not believe. I mean, yes, maybe there is talent, but if you don't work it means nothing. Like I don't believe in this gift given by God. Like people tell you, شو موهوب انت نيالك, like it's great. You are so lucky. It's like erasing all the hundreds and thousands of hours where you stay drawing, to learn the craft. So I was very interested in continuing to draw, and I was also very fascinated by the artist life. Now it changed later on in the sense that I was very like I chose comics because really comics is a language I learned before reading. So my older brother used to read comics, my cousin also. So I had a lot of comics, access to a lot of comics, and I used to read them without being able to read. So I would read the frames one after the other, and then would come and tell the story to my mom. Of course, I would invent the story. It wouldn't be the exact same story or far from that, but I would make my story, and this sequential drawings was very clear for me since very young. I say it because I later on discovered with my own son when he discovered comics. So when he was 5 years, I would show him Tintin, and then you have Tintin, and then he goes under the water, then a shark comes, and the fourth panel, he removes his shoes. And then I say, look, the shark came, and then he say, no, this is the second Tintin, or there are two Tintins. So he wouldn't see it. So it's not as obvious as one would think to jump from one frame to the other and understand it's the same story. For me, it was very clear since the beginning, and I was fascinated by this idea of having one still frame and another, and then you have to fill the in between. Of course, back then I wouldn't understand this, but like something viscerally attracted me into this communication form, if you want. And then I used to read a lot. When I started reading, I was obsessed with comics. I still am with reading and with comics. So I decided to do comics, and then my biggest problem was because I had this glamorous idea of art and of fame, especially with Antoine as a father. You could never go on the street without people stopping him, like anywhere, wherever we go. And once, just an anecdote. Once I was stuck in traffic, and then I saw him in the car next to me. I honked, and he looked at me, and I say, "Hey, hi, Dad," and then he did this like as if I was a mojab or something. So he gave me this look, yeah, hello, how are you? So it was really fascinating to see how I was always you know so I was always, my biggest problem when I was young, like how the will I be as famous as him by doing comics? Like comics is so difficult. So my dream, like kids dream about traveling in time, to go see the pyramids, to go to the Western time, to go to the medieval castles. My dream was to be able to travel in time just before Hergé and create Tintin before him, and then become very famous, for creating Tintin, because Tintin was really very famous, and then having something as famous as Tintin was impossible. So it was always like, how will I compete with my father? How would I become as famous as him by doing comics? Fortunately, this didn't stop me, and I continued drawing comics. But I was always imagining myself doing a series that will be very famous. I thought for a long time doing, and I did some old sets that look like Asterix, but as a Phoenician. So I would take a Phoenician boy. He was called Murex, of course. What else? And so Murex had adventures, and then I could talk in a very Rahbani Brothers way. I could talk about today while putting the things in the Phoenicians' time. And so I was in this kind of things and thinking of humor, like humoristic stories mostly. And it's
Mazen,
really...
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your dad being famous?
It is a very, like, today try to think about it again, but back then I enjoyed it a lot. And I always say, I think because I had my brother as a buffer zone between me, as a buffer between me and my father. So my brother used to draw very well, and I had to become better illustrator than my brother. My brother was very successful with girls. I wanted to beat him on with this. He was very good at school. I want to be better than him. So I managed only to draw better than him. He was better with everything else. The end of the story is I couldn't compete with him on anything. He was also very good in sports and everything. He still is, by the way. But he was having this Oedipus with my father. I feel in retrospect that I didn't like everything that would come from Antoine. Even once my brother came and showed me an interview where Antoine says that the most important thing is his family, of course. And then they ask him, how about theater? Is your family more important than theater? He said, no, theater is the most important, of course. And my brother showed me this. I remember very well. Like he say, look at your father, what he says, like theater is more important than us. And I didn't dare to say to my brother, I was fascinated. Like, wow, this is what I want to be. I mean, for me, comics will be more important than anything else, you know.
Wow.
So I really took it as like his involvement for art, like it's the most important thing. And I am a kind like this nowadays. Fortunately, I understand better, and of course, my family is more important than comics. But comics or art is for me like it's a reason to live. Like friends of mine tell me, you believe in art like somebody would believe in God. You are like you're really a mystic almost.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing else to do. But
Fame
to go
is
back,
interesting, though.
just to go back, Mickey,
Yeah.
to this story. So when I arrived to this age, when I started discovering experimental music, weird books, like started reading Kafka first, then like it opened the door to weird literature later, weird music, movies of Bergman, Tarkovsky, Buñuel. Like I was really jumping into this world. This is where I started discovering that, yeah, of course I want to do comics, but I don't give a shit to be famous. You know, I want to do something radically different, radically resembling me, and that would surprise me first and could surprise people, and that would ask people to make an effort. And so I like my whole relationship to being an artist shifted. It was between 18 and 20 years. And at this moment, I was still doing stuff for magazines and being really in this humoristic vein. But this is where it all shifted, and this is where I started being a musician, because until then I never played an instrument until 18 years old.
I want to talk about specifically about fame because it's connected to the way I introduced you, actually. So it's and it's I've never spoken to somebody. I don't think I've ever spoken to somebody who had that perspective growing up right next to fame. What did you see? How did you perceive other people's interactions with Antoine, your very famous father? What did it actually look like? Do you feel like they actually understood him, or was he this sort of walking misunderstanding? You know, because they don't know him, obviously.
He was a walking misunderstanding. Just by anecdotes, like my friends would say, "How would you live with Barbar Agha in the same room?" Also, Antoine had, especially in this period where he was mostly on TV, he had always the role of the bad guy. You know, like he was the guy shouting at Fayrouz. He was always like in Petra. He kills her daughter. On TV, he was this. My brother used to fight with his friends because they say your father is a thief, because he played in Min Yom Layom the role of a thief, etc. And he had this very strong and severe, persona everywhere. And in at home, he's the sweetest guy ever. You know, like he has. My brother always said, like, my father, he never hit any of us. He didn't need. He had his voice, you know. So he had Antoine Kerbaj's voice, and when he tells you "Jmad ya Sabi," you freeze. You don't move anymore. But he was the sweetest father. He was not at all. So there was this misunderstanding. Of course, it was very clear since the beginning that people don't know who he is, know somebody else. Plus, he was a very, very, very introvert and secretive person. So Antoine is like the contrary of my mom, who is very. I mean, she is maybe secretive. I don't know, but she is very prone to just like she's really outspoken and extrovert, at least with people around. Antoine was a very calm and very shy, like people wouldn't believe, but he's a very shy person. Maybe this is what explains how good he was on stage. You know, where these things disappears and he could shine. But fame also like was counterbalanced by Laure, because Laure's work is very special. And for the longest period, I used to say, "Mom, I draw better than you. You don't know how to draw. Like it's really like kids' drawings, etc." But then also when I started growing up and discovered for real her work, how special it is, how personal, how different from anything else, and how inspiring it became for me. This is where also fame was counterbalanced, where I would say in my head, but Laure should be more famous than Antoine. Like she's really all things apart, like they really are in very different worlds. But what she is doing is really at the international level. Like the woman invented a style that resembles nothing else, and she is very good at it, you know. And she was totally underrated. I mean, not underrated, but just by being next to Antoine Kerbaj, she would by default be the less famous one. So this thing also gave me the strength of understanding that it's not important to be famous. Like the most important is doing really very good work. And then later on, also discovering Antoine's مسيرة، شو بتقول مسيرة بالإنجليزي؟ Antoine's let's say career or whatever. Like he became mostly famous.
It's like legacy.
Legacy, and you see, like when I studied what he studied, like when I researched what he did for my own and for the book I'm doing on him, like it's clear that Antoine did his best roles before I was born. So he was the most creative and playing his best roles with Munir Abu Dabas in like doing Malik Yamout, Le Roi Sommeur of Ionesco, Les Mouches of Sartre, or even Fofat or Shakespeare and all this. And he started becoming more famous when he started doing things with the Rahbani brothers. And then he became like he shooted to the stars when he became famous on TV with Barbara Agha and Al Buasa, and then more and more things. And during my time, so back in 75, so I remember things from the 80s. It was the Civil War, and he was anyway forced to accept things that he might have not done. He would always say, you know, people now don't want to sing, they want to laugh, they want to have a good time, they come to the theater not to be depressed, you know, like they are depressed all year long. So somehow he became famous not for the best things he did, if you know what I mean. And this is where also like I decided at some point, like I don't want to be I mean, I'm very happy. Don't get me wrong, I would be very happy to have 1 million reader, but for me, one reader is totally enough to do what I'm doing. And I never think of the reader, and I don't care about the reader and the audience. Of course, I care again, like I'm very happy when there are many people who come for what I'm doing. But for instance, to take a personal example, I'm not very happy that like in the 2006 war, I was getting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, visit to my blog, and of course it's great because I was drawing about the 2006 war in real time, and it's great because I needed people to see the shit that is happening. So for raising awareness, it's great. But it was clear that I'm becoming famous for the wrong reasons. You know, like people were there for the war, not for my work. And of course, the blog went back to 200 visits per week after the war finished. And it's very good like this. I'm not complaining. I don't want 100,000 people coming for the wrong reason. I want 1, 2, 10, whatever people coming to really fight with my work and get something out of it. Hopefully, say things that I didn't even see, or at least make some effort to like not to have a totally digested work for them, but to find me somewhere and that we meet in the work, and then they get whatever they want out of it. So when I discovered all this, fame became really really accessory, and I don't care about it. All this said, I'm much more famous than I expected. So, so I am kind of a little bit famous, with all the shit that I do.
The thing about fame is that like it's really hard to get famous with complicated work, obviously, right? Like fast food, they have a few things on the menu, right? And it needs to be predictable and repeatable, right? And this is why it's really hard to get like capital F famous doing really complicated music, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also with comics, I mean, it's the same. Like
so,
people need to get used to something, and I've always been very critical of artists, big artists, very renowned artists. I call it the Dali syndrome. So you know where it comes from. But this idea of artists arriving somewhere in their work and then doing the same endlessly, doing it better and better, but it's the same, like no surprises anymore to be expected. And now I'm at this age where I'm scared to turn, because I always say, yeah, it's easy to criticize. I'm still 20, I'm still 30, and now I'm almost 50. So I'm always like very keen to remind myself, like, be careful. And when things happen, like for me, many times it happened. The biggest example was when I was working with Al Akhbar newspaper. I used to do this back page at some point every Friday. So 5 strips called هذه القصة تجري. This story happens. And after maybe a year and a half, it really became like famous. I mean, yeah, again, famous. It's the very levels, but I mean, very popular, let's say. And many people would talk to me about it. Many people who usually didn't know my work. And so it went way wider, like the audience that was reading it, than the people who used to read me in L'Orient Littéraire of Samir Assir, for instance. And then I was doing it, and it became really a kind of exercise I do, and I did some experimental things in it. But then I arrived to a point where it was clear I could continue doing it for all my life, like Charles Schulz with Peanuts, with Snoopy, etc. And I got scared. I got scared from this. Then I at some point after 2 years, in 5 weeks in a row, every week I would kill one or two of the characters. And at some point, people were writing after the third week, like, what's happening? It's not funny anymore. And then at some point, I killed all the characters and stopped it. So the last one was called هذه القصة انتهت, and not هذه القصة تجري. So this story ended, and then it ends. And the idea of killing them is not to have ever again the temptation to get it back on track again. So to just get rid of it, because I felt the danger. And when I did this, it was like my wife was pregnant with twins. So it was really a point where I needed a regular income. So on top of it, also the regular income was really very important for us back then. But also being hooked to a regular income is also very scary for me, because I know if I continue getting hooked and I don't cut the thing now, I might never be able to cut it. I might continue doing it for the money. And for me, it was always very important to be sure not to fall in this trap. And each time I had a regular job by teaching, or even I worked in advertising, like when I feel it's getting dangerous, I need to make a clean cut. And so, yeah, I killed these characters, and I'm very happy with the story, how it is, how it finishes. And I'm very, like, in retrospect, very almost proud of myself to be able to do this kind of things, because it's very important to look at yourself clearly and to slap yourself in the face when needed. It's very important, and it's very difficult for artists, because nobody tells you, hey, you're going, like, people either don't follow you anymore or don't like it. It's very difficult to have somebody. I have some friends, very, 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 very rare, like you can count them on one hand, with whom I can really discuss my art and their art, and we can be frank and tell him, like, this is shit, or he tells me this is shit, or you're repeating yourself, etc. But usually you need to be your own critic, and it's very, very, very difficult. It's very easy to be lazy with yourself and to let yourself do things.
Yeah. I want to talk about this idea of, so you killed these characters, right? But I think, let me phrase it this way. I think a lot of people who are not specifically from the like creative scene in Beirut enter your work, or first find out about you in one way. I'll tell you what that way is. Do you have a guess what it is?
If you're talking about music.
No, not music.
by drawings. I think nowadays it's by having a poster, having seen a poster somewhere.
Exactly.
This poster, the orange and the black poster, the Beirut sunset. When I see it, I almost want to puke. It's
I want to ask you. This is exactly what I want to ask you.
Yeah. It's
because I'm sure I can't imagine how many times you've walked into somebody's apartment or had a Zoom call with somebody who said, "Yeah, I love Beirut. Yeah, I love," and behind them on the wall. And I have one of the posters
you
here,
have
not yours.
You have Janas.
I have Janas.
Yeah,
right?
I can
have
see
Janas
from
here, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that a million times you've seen that orange poster in the background, or Burj Al Mur, right?
Yeah. The orange one is like, for the anecdote, Tony from Tony's Fair from Laure once told me it's his best selling by far. He told me it's my best selling. It's still my best selling. I say, yeah, it's great. You say, but I never told you. I said what? He said, you don't just try to guess what is the second one that sells half of this one. I said, what? He said, Fayrouz in Baalbek. He said, you are selling double the amount of the poster of Fayrouz in Baalbek. I said, like, I never thought I will compete with Fayrouz. So I don't know. Yes, this is the most surprising thing. I mean, when I drew the specific 3 drawings were part of a comics called Letter to the Mother. In French, it was Lettre à la Mère, where I talk with Beirut as if she was my mother, and it's a kind of hate and love letter for Beirut. I never, and when we did them as posters, so I did this exhibition, Cheap Prints, where I wanted to really cut with this idea of like expensive, like somebody wants to buy my art and then it's very expensive. So we did this big exhibition called the Cheap Prints. Many art galleries told me this is very bad. You are shooting yourself in the feet and etc. Which I might have, but it's another story. But then we did these and we did many others. But these 3, like, I never thought they will arrive, like they will have this legacy. I'm very happy, of course. My wallet is very happy. I'm very happy. Again, I'm very happy to see the thing. But yeah, I mean, these drawings became really, it's again, it puts you in, you know what I mean? It puts you in a box, or people expect from you. And this has always created misunderstanding between me and so many of my readers or followers or audience, because they expect me to do things. And I'm always going in so many directions, trying to surprise myself each time. And like, my next thing might be a book with no drawings in it. I'm still working on it. Like, I know people like, what? You want to be a writer now? Like, I can hear it already. But for me, it's very important to go in all this direction. I mean, I hate to be bored with what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, many people, so in music, I wanted to say it's Starry Night, this track I recorded when Israel was bombing Beirut in 2006. I think I will never, ever equal this with any of my music. I mean, this is, even a friend of mine, he said this might be the most known improv piece of music ever, in history almost, because improv is so niche. And to go back to fame, so I'm kind of famous, or I'm well known in the improv scene and in the alternative comic scene. So you can always be famous, but in a niche place. This is what I like.
I want to talk about your blogging days. When you first started the blog, I think you started in like 2004 or something like that. When did you first start blogging?
Actually, I started really in 2006 on the second day of the Israel thing. And my first post was like, it's been 2 years I want to do a blog, and by laziness, I'm not doing it. And Israel f***ed my nice life and forced me to do it. So it really started on the 13th of July, 2006. And it started really to do it, to just answer. There was, just for our younger audience, there was no social media back then. So doing a blog was the only way to communicate to the world, in real time.
Can you actually walk me through, since for a lot of people, they have no idea, they can't remember this time.
Yeah. Well,
how did you, what was your process like, your actual daily process to get what were you using? What apps were you using? Applications, programs, what hardware were you using? How were you doing it?
Well, it was like back then, I just, I just don't want to say something wrong. Googled, it was already Googled, it was, but after Yahoo. So we had Google already. So I Googled blog, and then they gave me some, platforms where you could open a blog. And the blog is a kind of personal website, but really made with the idea of journaling, of writing diary entries. You could add an image. You could, and then you communicate to the world. And it was very popular because this was the place where many artists or writers or musicians or all kind of creative people or not creative could share. Like you could also open a blog just for your family. They could go there and see what you are writing. You could put
like
souvenirs.
I did.
Yeah, of course. So it was really the place, the pre-social media place, but you had your own place, and then how to bring the people was the strongest, the most difficult thing. So for me, I sent an email to my mailing list. It was maybe back then like 200 people, like following my stuff, and then they mailed it to. It was an email chain. They mailed it to more people, then to more people, and then very quickly it was tens of thousands and hundreds of thousand visits in I think in a single day at the end. And the process was really to draw frantically with a frenzy. I don't know how to say it in English. I had a frenzy. I had a sense of emergency for drawing and full on, no questioning. Like I would draw, don't ask myself anything, scan it and put it. And when I finish a drawing, I never try to make it look better. I never try to. I say this because, on the contrary, with what I'm doing with Palestine now, or what I did with the Corona Diaries, where I do a drawing. If I don't like it, I arrange it again. I can post it tomorrow, etc. With the Beirut War, the fact of being under the bombs, even though I was a little bit outside, like 1 kilometer away of that year, but still, like being under the stress, like there was a sense of emergency and of danger and of maybe I won't be able to do another drawing, so I need to do as much as possible. And I would draw them in English, Arabic, or French, in whatever language would come. The idea would come. I would draw it in it and then translate them on the blog. Yeah, I mean, this is, and also sometimes, like many times, there was no electricity, so I would wait for 3 days and then scan like 15 drawings and put them in one go. And also, the idea that with the blog was this idea also that with social media was developed much more. The idea of having comments in real time from people who are reading. This was insane. I mean, back then it was like full science fiction for me, like to be able to do this, to have a drone this morning, and in the afternoon I'm already answering tens, if not hundreds, of comments about the same drawings that I drew in the morning. This concept was really like usually you do your drawings, you publish a book 1 year later. People can't comment on it. They comment on it when they come to your book signing, etc. So this was really the opening of this idea of having a real time interaction with people. It was really insane, insanely new back then.
So, how far into that process did you think that this needs to be a book? This needs to become Beirut Won't Cry?
Since the first drawings, I always knew I'm doing a book. Like with the Palestinian thing, for many reasons. One, of course, the most obvious reason is being a dinosaur coming from the past. Like having this kind of retro fantasy and loving books, etc. But it's not only. I really believe in the future of books. I do not think, like many, that the computer and the PDF and then the readers will replace books. The idea of having all the drawings in one place makes it very different from seeing them on the blog, and today, like seeing them on Instagram or having them in one place. Having the book that is going out now, like this Gaza in my phone book, instead of having the genocide unfolds on Instagram in these drawings, etc., you have it all in one place and you can read it as a story, as awful as this might sound. And then it gives it a totally different perspective, and also having each drawing, specifically in a book with drawings, it's also different than just a book without images. Having each drawing answering the one that is next to it, they come by two, and then the one that's coming later. And then when I put them in the book, I changed a little bit. I didn't put them exactly like on Instagram because of this. You create a certain tension, you create a certain narrative that is very different than also the book. You can always, with Instagram, somebody who comes now to my Instagram page and sees one new drawing, he comes and then he scrolls and see two or three and then he moves. He's not going to read all of it, obviously, not made for that. It's made for the moment, and you always need to feed it new stuff. So I'm always and I am a book person again. So I'm always knowing that I'm doing a book, and I always, while drawing the drawings, know that, and this is why I set a format, and I would never do one in landscape, for instance. That's it. It's a format of a book. I know it's a book, so I do them. It's the same format. It has to fit somehow at the end. I'm always conscious I'm doing a book since the beginning.
Yeah. Let's talk about Gaza in My Phone, which is the book that I think came out most recently.
Actually, it came out in French, but in English, it still didn't. It's at the end of May that it will be officially. I mean, its pre-orders are delivered now, but officially you will find it in bookstores at end of May.
Yeah. One of the, I mean, if people haven't seen some of these drawings already, they are, I mean, they're heartbreaking. They're really, really heartbreaking. Unlike the 2006 book where, in interviews and sort of in the press kit about it, you were saying basically like, I just want a witness. It's a testimony. I want people to hear what it feels like and is like. What was the conceit of this book for you? Like, what was imploring you to actually write these, draw these every single day and put them in the world?
I would say it's like 2 to 3 reasons that overlapped. So one of them is also to bear witness. So when it all started, I started by posting all drawings I did about Gaza. So I did drawings in 2008 and the first war on Gaza, then used them again in 2012, drew them again, the same ones, and with the comment that it's incredible how in our part of the world, in our region, you can keep the drawings and keep drawing them again and again, and they sound as drawn today. So then I used again, like some of them I would draw again in 2015, 18, 20, 21, etc. So I started by doing this after the 7th of October. But very quickly I understood it's not going to be enough, like it's really going to be way larger. So the first drawing I do was on 9th of October, a new drawing with a kid in the rubbles with planes over him, jets, and he is asking, "Mom, is it true we are all terrorists?" And even this drawing I put now on the title page, I didn't include with all the rest because I find it a little bit too cute for the rest, like when it became really hardcore. So the first maybe drawing for real that set the whole book is the drawing with the plastic bags that a father carried with the rest of his children. When I saw this image, like this video, this is where I understood I have to really delve into this, like stop everything, and that's it. And this is what put me in the same situation than with Beirut, because it was difficult not to be under the bombs. When I was under the bombs, it was a direct, like from the first bomb I did the first drawing. It was my way of coping, with the fear, with the anxiety, with everything. Here it took me 3-4 days to understand that I will need this to cope also. So the first reason I did this was again to stay sane somehow and to cope with the madness around. The second was to raise awareness again, because I knew I had maybe 15,000 followers on Instagram. Now it's to double, I guess. I knew it's very important, and I knew my position as somebody who is known, again, I mean, not famous, but known in the West, and coming from there, I knew I had kind of mission almost to bring the reality, the real messages to the people around. So to raise awareness and to bear witness. And third, and this took time to understand, but after a month it was clear, was to counter the narrative that is pushed by all mainstream media all over the world. So it was insane. Like I still say it today. It's like living in a dystopia, but that is written by a very bad writer. Like it's really an unbelievable dystopia. You would say this 2 years ago, nobody would have believed. Like the whole world, like the whole white world, let's say, or West, with all the media, even the leftist media, the most radical media, is not talking about this thing. It's like it's not happening. So these were the 3 things, and in this regard, I not self-centered, because I don't like this word. word, but like I was more keen and careful on what I put on my Instagram. When I was under the bombs with Israel, I wouldn't like I was really like whatever passes in my mind, I would put it, and I wouldn't give a fuck about being taxed of whatever anti-Semitism or whatever. Like we were under the bombs, and it was a sense of emergency. Here, it was like I wanted, not by fear, because from the beginning, what I started doing, I'm still actually amazed that I'm not in jail or I'm not stopped. I'm still amazed how the drawings are still accepted. I have a kind of explanation for it because it is really radically saying what many people are saying and are being put in jail in Germany and you know and stopped and cancelled by Meta and um, for me I was very keen on not antagonizing the white people. Again, I don't like to say the white people because of course many white people are great and are supportive and more knowledgeable than me and you and you know. But of course, I take the archetypal like white supremacy worlds we're living in. So I want to draw these people to the reality. I don't want to give them any reason to say, "Oh, I don't want to listen to him; he's anti-Semite," or I don't want to listen to him; he's pro-terrorist." And I made it a mission almost to always say total facts. Like all what I say is things we saw all on video. I never give my own opinion. What I give is my own way of seeing things, which is my way to do things anyway. It's always very personal. It's always from my very personal point of view. It's how I lived these things. But there are things that nobody can argue with. Nobody can say no, you are lying here. So this was very important. Again, not to be stopped, and also to bring more people in.
But I mean, just personally, you live in Berlin. I mean, you live in many ways the like
The worst, say it's the worst place
the
in the
worst
world
place.
for
It's
this.
the heart.
Yeah.
It's the heart of the persecution of anyone who is trying to stop the genocide. I mean, it is really like the stories coming out of Berlin and in Germany are shocking.
It is insane. I mean, even like people know more this about the States, but it's much worse than the States. It's much worse than the United States. It's the worst place to be in the world. It's funny and sad. Like until 6th of October, 2023, I used to say Berlin is the best city in the world, and it became the worst. So it really went from black to white or white to black, however you see it, overnight. And of course, we all knew, like we're not stupid. I'm not naive. I knew all this guilt of the German people and how they cannot criticize Israel because, and I always discuss with people, you know, like saying, yeah, I understand your guilt. Of course, you did the Holocaust, and it's great. You can still be guilty about it. I'm not re-questioning, but this shouldn't obliterate the fact that you could, you know, be critical of the state of Israel, etc. And people would be, yeah, of course, and like they would talk with you, and I knew that like this was here, and I lived with it, saying, yeah, I mean, if shit hits a fan, it would be difficult, but I never imagined it would be that difficult. I never imagined that Berlin would be, and I hate to make these comparisons, and I managed to avoid them in my drawings, but like that Berlin would be 100 years later doing the exact same thing it did to Jews, now doing it to Arabs and to some Jews, which is insane. Like there are progressive Jews and anti-genocide Jews who are accused by German people to be anti-Semite. I mean, just a German person saying to a Jew that he is a good or a bad Jew, it sounds really like a bad joke, but it is real. Like they are putting Jews, Jewish Voice for Peace, the organization is almost outlawed. They are putting them in jail, and they are putting any kind of solidarity with Palestine. Like you put a kafir, you are anti-Semite. It's like the Kippah 100 years ago. Again, I hate to draw this parallelism. I hate to say, yeah, the Israelis are acting like Nazis, but they are acting worse actually. So as much as I avoid saying this in my drawings, because I don't think we need the barbarism of the Nazis to compare the shit that Israel is doing. It's way beyond. So I feel it's easy in a drawing to create this parallelism. I prefer to go directly to the thing we don't need this. But then now that we are talking, living in Germany and feeling that the German people, when something like this happens, I totally hear them. They are guilty. They did the Holocaust. It's awful. When something like this happens, you say, "Hey, I will step aside. I can't say anything. I mean, شهادتي مسروحة, as you would say in Arabic. I should really step aside and shut the fuck up. Like, don't give lessons to anybody. It's really insane what they are doing.
I want to talk about your music. Do you see a real distinction between your work as a visual artist and your work as a musical artist in terms of what you can talk about and what you can address and your relationship with that?
I used to see much more a difference. Like I used to really compartment them and to see myself as a musician and a visual artist. With time, the line blurred a lot for me, especially that I did many performances where, for instance, I would do live drawing or live ink painting, very abstract, with live music. Or when I did a movie lately called Mazen Kerbaj, the musical, where I play music, but in a narrative way and in a humoristic way without losing the radical part of my music making. So it becomes more like writing a scenario for comics, but it was written for my musical persona. So the line is blurring, but as a practitioner, I really see a big difference, and somehow I feel I need both. So with music, I feel really music is a kind of abstract by essence form of art. So it's really abstract. You cannot pass any message by music. And when you start talking, it becomes singing. It's not music per se. It's a kind of, but music, instrumental music, it's so difficult to pass a message. Of course, there are things, I mean, not to be megalomaniac, but Starry Night, like of course, it passes a message when, it's bumps and music, or of course, musique concrète, but it's very specific things. Music as a whole, when they tell you Beethoven, it's the ode to joy. If you don't say the title to somebody who doesn't know it, he might feel it's depressing. It's really very subjective. There is no message whatsoever. It's so direct how it talks to you, and you cannot talk about it. As soon as you try to explain music, it's not music anymore. As soon as you put one word on music, it's not music. And I love this, and also how direct it is. Like with drawing, specifically comics, you draw for 1 year and it's very introvert work. It's really nerdy almost. You are really alone, drowning in your thing, and then it finishes and then it gets published. And then 1 year later, people read it. And then they come and tell you 2 years later when they come to your book signing, yes, I loved it. And then this thing is dead for you. It's been 2 years. Like the process of doing it is so, you are somewhere else, while with music it's so direct, especially with improvised music, as I practice mostly music. So I go on stage, I don't know what I'm going to do, and then I do it while you are listening, and we are almost doing it together, because the energy you are sending back, if I feel it sounds good, it's great. If I feel the audience is very attentive, I will be different. Like it's really doing it together, not in a cheesy way, like we're doing it together, but there is really this kind of energy of the place and the location and the time, totally different. And at the end of the day, I'm really talking, if I may say, talking directly to you, like from like sound wise, and it's very physical. It's your whole body that is taking this thing and making whatever it wants with it. So, and the process, somehow I always say I'm more interested in the process than the result. But with improv music, so with drawing comics, like at the end of the day, when the comics is finished, it's finished for me. Like the greatest thing was putting it together and until the last moment, and drawing the cover, and then it's here, and then that's it. I never open it again. I'm not this kind of guy who would read his own comics. I know some people do, but with music, especially with improv music, the process is the result, and it's fantastic. So you see me creating it, and when I finish creating it, you can see it, you can't hear it anymore. I mean, you listening to a record is something else, but live music is so direct, and so I feel I really need these two things: this very introvert moments, these things where I'm alone with myself, and this other thing where I share it with others. And where it's very dangerous, where you cannot correct anything, where you're really on a line, like walking on a thin line. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, two last questions before we wrap up. Let's say you saw like some brief. Somebody sends you a screenshot of a design brief, okay? And it says, we're looking for an illustrator to work on a poster for our band in a Mazen Kerbaj style. How do you feel when you see something like that?
Well, it happened a lot that people ask me for, and then I always ask, but which style, which style of Mazen Kerbaj you are looking for? And then they, what do you mean? Like, I like this cover. I say, okay, so this is what you're looking for. It's been like, style is the word that gives me, I don't know what is the contrary of goosebumps in English, but like it drives me crazy. So all my life, I've been trying to avoid having a style. Again, it's like this idea of artists having a style. And of course, at the end of the day, like friends who know my work or close people say, yeah, but you have a f***ing style, you want, either you want it or not. But for me, like using different tools, using different material, using collage, using whatever, like it's always, for me, I need to surprise myself and to go outside of so I hope I still manage not to be closeted in one style, and I still can and I like also when they ask me for something to really surprise people. This said, I'm very, very little, I have very little commission works. It's been at least maybe 5 or maybe 10 years that I do not do any more things only for money, which is a blessing. It took me 20 years to arrive here. I did in my life for money, advertising and stuff. Now I do it if I really like the project or the person, or I really want to do it and I feel it's inspiring, I would do it. So.
Okay, the last question. If you were to put together a list of like top 5, top 10 influences, okay? Artistic, comedic, visual, music, writers, thinkers. Who would you actually put on that list?
Wow, this is let's try. Let's give it a try and see what comes very quickly. So I would put Laure Ghorayeb as first, Pablo Picasso, Evan Parker as musician, Ingmar Bergman, Marguerite Duras. So of course, all this, like, it comes from various moments.
Sure.
Sharif Sahnewi, old friend, guitar, fantastic musician, who gave me my first trumpet. So I can't not put him. He said, I have a trumpet, do you want it? This is how I started playing music. But this is for another podcast. And who else comes as Franz Kafka, comics artist, of course. I cannot not say maybe Alberto Breccia, and for the humor, Daniel Gossens, very underrated, fantastic, genius comics author. That makes time.
Amazing, so easy.
I'm
right?
sure I'm sure if I start again, I'll give you 10 others. But let's go with these.
Mazen, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. People can find your work everywhere. So just search Mazen Kerbaj wherever you like to search for things, and you'll find his work. And inshallah, they can pick up the book in English soon, and in French, it's already out. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mickey. It was a great pleasure.